Game Clique.
So we can't talk about Marvel's Midnight Suns without talking about Marvel, the namesake itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially during a time where Marvel is kind of fresh off of the acquisition of Disney, and we all know from the outside looking in, Disney can be very much hands-on when it comes to their IP. Can you speak to how it was working with the Marvel IP and the process of that?
Yeah, I mean, it like any other company that owns intellectual property, right? Like they want to hold that to a certain degree. There are tons of examples like this out there. But like they try to be as accommodating as possible. And it's one of those things where it's more of a collaboration, right? They have those characters, right? We make strategy games, so they understand that we make the gameplay and that they have the characters, so we understand they have the characters, and so like the collaboration thing was like for example, let's take a character like Blade, right? Blade is of course one of the characters in the game. Blade is Daywalker, right? Vampire, walks around the daytime, is on a vendetta to eradicate vampires because of what happened to his family and so on and so forth. I could dive deep into that stuff, but but like the whole thing with that character is that of course he has the abilities of a vampire, but he's allowed to kind of like move around in the daytime. But he also is susceptible to some of the issues that vampires have, which is like that vampire instinct, wanting to feed on blood and stuff like that. So like when you take a character like that, they have some rules about that. The part that they allow us to do is, okay, now Blade is in a strategy game, a turn-based strategy game. How do you make Blade work in that fashion? So they kind of like gave us a little more freedom on how to do that stuff and coming up with abilities. And of course, you back and forth, pass those things back and forth. You bet them until you get them to the right spot where, everybody's happy. And like most of the time it was pretty simple. Like we have designers in there that read a lot of comic books and stuff like that. So it's like, when you mention things like Easter eggs or like little tidbits that you realize that were in a certain run of like Blade or Spider-Man or like, any of the X-Men characters, they're just like, and if we say like, hey, we want to play off of that, they were like, hey, like show us what you were going to do, and then you go through the iterative process and then you come out and you're just like, hey, look, like we made this character feel the way that Marvel wants it presented, but at the same time, it fits that strategy genre and is rewarding to the player, when they use those abilities.
It's awesome to hear you speak so thorough about the combat system, because I believe specifically you were a combat producer, like that was your main focus with the project, right? So we're calling Midnight Suns ambitious, and a lot of people who are probably listening, they're just assuming, oh, it's ambitious because it's a big IP. You're working with Marvel, you're working with Disney, but this was really, even though Firaxis is like the kings of turn-based strategy, you took a lot of gambles that you normally don't take with a couple of your other franchises, like mixing in the deck building card,
of course,
with that. So how was that in regards to kind of implementing that into the game?
Well, it's Marvel characters. They're superheroes, right? And I'm sure you've played. I don't know if you played XCOM before.
Yes, for sure.
But XCOM. Yeah, XCOM has that whole thing where you can hide behind cover. Most superheroes don't hide behind cover. They're more of a go in, kind of like help people, get the bad guys out of here kind of thing, save the day kind of deal. So like that's where, we have to do things like play into that, right? Like you don't usually see Spider-Man for long periods of time, like taking cover or something like that. So it's like you've noticed the game is open, it's an open space. So like the designers were like really great about like making it feel more superhero-ish. And the cards is another thing that they have there. It's just a means to have abilities because in most hero games, right? What do you get to do? You just punch, 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 punch until the thing loses its health. When you're playing chess, you don't always get to just move all your characters and just eliminate the entire board, right? The enemy also takes a turn too. So, it's just things like that. And, like I'm not a designer, but that's what the designers came up with, and then and the abilities and stuff like that. So like, they're the ones who kind of put that stuff together. But, they were doing that collaboratively with the Marvel Studios.
It feels so obvious when you say it like that because majority of the game you're kind of battling foot soldiers and like the lowest level of enemies that you're going up against. So the card system is kind of more so we can't let you wreck shop. We can't let you you have to manage these moves. You have to manage damn, that's so damn brilliant. I feel so
yeah. Oh yeah, it's like that too. When the designers kind of also present things in that fashion as well too. So, you think critically. I mean, like even a thing that I thought to myself first before I kind of fully understood that was like, oh, like what if you have to save somebody, right? Maybe a hero runs through a bunch of choices through their head. Like I could use this move, but this move might do this and this thing. So when I play that game myself, right? That's how I'm thinking. I'm just like, well, if I do this, this might, destroy this thing over here, which I know is explosive, and my teammate standing over there. I don't want my teammate to get hurt. So maybe I'll do this move instead, So it's a means of like strategizing because it's a strategy game. You want to kind of play to that. So you want people to think critically versus like, oh, I just see some people just play that way. They see it like I see this card. This card is the one that's going to do the most damage. They just go.
It's the overpowered protagonist of every anime running.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So like, it gives what like I really like games that have variable play. Like there's no 100% correct way to play it. If I want to be super defensive, for the most part, I can go that route. If I want to be super offensive, I can go that route. And I think that's the other thing that was great about like XCOM, right? I know in XCOM, I used to like move very slowly. I'd have somebody up front that's taking point and they're scanning the area. And if I see something or trigger something that's too much for me, I'll pull them back. But now these enemies are coming towards my team and I feel like I have more of an advantage. Some people just go straight down the line, just destroy everything. So like, like that's one of those things that I think is great about like, how some of the stuff transitioned from like XCOM.
Quick side note. If you, and this is for you too, champ, anime. If y'all haven't seen Bofuri, I don't want to get hurt, so I max out my defense. Please watch it. That's the whole name of the anime.
I have not seen it, but I have people that have told me I should watch it.
It's so good. It's only 2 seasons. It's great.
Okay.
Was that on Crunchy?
Yeah, it's on Crunchyroll.
Okay.
I'll have to check it out.
Without mentioning a character, what was any abilities that was just straight up rejected? Marvel was like, no, this is too crazy.
Well, I don't think we ran into anything like that. Just because, you get character guides from them. They're very thorough with, this is the way this character is presented. So like we didn't really like, but I mean, like, again, they're superheroes. So some of the things that you may think are like, maybe be off the table are not off the table because like with those kinds of characters, I think anything can happen. There's so much reference that it's like, like, I mean, like you can't do something like, okay, like Spider-Man turns into a cat and like runs down the street, right? Like that, nobody's going to do that, right? It's Spider-Man. So, like I don't think there was anything that was just like, off the table. It was very, like I said, very collaborative.
Awesome.
As much as I was like singing Midnight Sun's praise when it first came out, I was trying to convince everybody, play this damn game. Y'all are crazy. But just like you were saying with your brother, like a lot of the people in my circle, they're not really into like the turn-based strategy games. So it fell by the wayside. But then here we go, actually over a full year later, right? It drops on Humble Bundle. It drops in PS Plus. And now everybody is like, whoa, have you heard of this game, Midnight Suns? And it's driving me nuts when I get those people. So from the inside, like, how does that make you feel, and like the other guys that worked on this game, now that everybody's kind of singing its praise after it's been out a year?
I think it's great. You know, we as a game company, you want everybody to play everything. You know, as a consumer, right? Time is a big factor. You know, so like it's great that a bunch of people are playing Marvel's Midnight Suns, and they're like, you know, singing praises about it and stuff like that. And you know, for us, it's at the office, it's great. It's great to hear. You know, so we hope people just keep, you know, playing it for as long as they want to, and they keep enjoying it, and they recommend it to their friends, and their friends recommend it to their friends, kind of thing, you know. Or if you have a copy, and later, you know, you play that with your own, like, you know, kids at some point in the future, because we have people that play a bunch of our games, older games, you know, and they play them or with their kids and other family members that are young, and then those kids grow up playing that stuff, and those are their classic games and whatnot. So
I'm gonna stick here for a little bit. What was some of your favorite characters to work on, as far as abilities wise, or just designing them in the combat?
So it's funny that you say that. I and this might sound very what do you call it? What do you call it? Normal, or I guess
Cliche?
generic answer. But I liked all of them, because this is a nice little tidbit right here. Okay, so I'm gonna go back into my past when I started drawing as a kid. You know, most kids, you know, they come up drawing Dragon Ball and anime stuff and stuff like that. I was doing that. I also really liked, you know, things like Transformers and a lot of like Marvel characters. I loved Black Panther. I liked, you know, Iron Man. I loved the X-Men. Just the, you know, the whole concept of it. It's like this house. It was like this cool school, you know, and they all had these matching uniforms and stuff like that. So at one point when I got into drawing, when I started drawing a lot, I was just like, oh, you know, when I was a kid, at one point I was like, I would probably like to do like comics or something like that, you know. So I'd read them. I was like drawing and stuff like that. And then fast forward, it's 2011. I went to Baltimore Comic-Con, and I met Stan Lee over there.
Nice.
So I have a picture in my office with Stan Lee, me and Stan Lee together, kind of thing. And most people look at it and they're just like, that Photoshop? And I'm just like, no, I was there. I got to talk to him for like about 10 minutes about a bunch of stuff. Really cool dude. Would talk your ear off if, you know, it wasn't a convention and he had to like talk, like, you know, go through 100 people to do the meet and greet kind of thing. So when fast forward, we start working on Marvel's Midnight Suns, I'm just ecstatic, because I'm working on Marvel IP, you know, and it's just like, that kid from like when I was drawing would have probably been like, you're the coolest dude ever.
Heck yeah.
You know? And then I would tell that young version of me, like, you know what? You're right. So it's like, you know, I kind of gassed myself up a little bit. It was very surreal, you know?
Yeah, you should. Like, that's
it's
awesome
very
story.
surreal. So like, you know, like working on a bunch of those characters. And the thing too was like, it was Marvel's Midnight Suns, which of course is a short run, but it kind of goes in and out of several different comics and stuff like that. So the cast was really cool, because even though you get, you know, your classic Avengers and stuff, we had, you know, the Runaways. So we had like Nico in there. We had instead of most people would expect like Colossus, because I used to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So Colossus was a character that I've seen in other Marvel games, but then it's his sister, Magic, who's like really powerful, and then the cool thing too is like instead of doing like Danny Ketch or Johnny Blaze, we're doing Robbie Reyes, who I had recently found out about because I read the Trad Moore version of the all new Ghost Rider, and I liked Trad Moore's art. And so when we were doing Robbie, I was just like, oh, this is so cool, Nico, super awesome as well too. And then of course, we throw Blade in there. So I'm just like, hey, that's a character I can, relate to as well. And it's like you see this nice spectrum of characters in the game, like all different statuses, and then you have, of course, you sprinkle in some Avengers in there. And people might not know, but this is a thing. Like at one point when Doctor Strange is no longer Sorcerer Supreme, Magic takes that role at one point too. So like you also, while you're playing our game, you get to see some of those things. And if you know that kind of like lore and stuff like that, there's all these little things hidden all over the place. There's a ton of content, So like, I mean, like if you play it again, like I would say go research some of the relationship stuff. And you'll see like there's a lot of like little like tiny Easter eggs that were thrown in there by the team. It's really awesome. So like I was like ecstatic playing, like working on all those characters.